Hello, welcome. My name is Jakob Walberg, and I'd like to present a story from Andrew Cadwell that shows an unpredictable way our lives get pieced together.
My name's Andrew Caldwell, and I'm a counselor by profession. I've also been in the military and had served in Vietnam, and it caused me quite personally to get into recovery. So, as a counselor, I can perhaps look at situations somewhat differently rather than from problems to a recovery aspect. And I've been blessed to be able to do that in my own life. And if I helped some others along the way, that's great.
My first question was, I was so curious to the draft back then. I know it's a lottery system, but how did you find out you're being drafted? You were in the ROTC. They just come up to you and say, you're going to Nam, buddy.
No, I got into ROTC. I was in college, and I didn't want to carry a rifle in a rice paddy in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So if I'd have graduated from college, which I did, and had lost my educational deferment, the Army would have drafted me. So I got into the ROTC to become an officer in the Air Force. Right. So once in the Air Force, then I went to various schools: NAV school, electronic warfare school, and they gave out assignments. I took a B-52. I wanted to be in a B-52 for a whole lot of reasons. They used to call them buffs in the Air Force.
And what was that plane mainly for? Supplies, warship?
Complete bombing mission.
Okay.
B-52, big bomber, carried nuclear weapons. And so they called them buffs. Big, ugly, fat was the term everybody called them in the Air Force, buffs. So that was my brilliant idea. And also, I could be on a base, make good money. And then what happened was that my assignment got changed to gunships. That was the problem. Now the Air Force can or the military can change your assignment at the drop of the hat if they want to.
Yeah. But you had your deferred status though at that time. You went to college, you had all that, so they could not draft you, right?
Well, I had gotten into the Air Force because I knew I would be drafted into the Army, probably.
Okay.
So once you sign on the dotted line, hey, you're committed. You can't say, "Oh, wait a minute, they changed the draft laws. See you later." No, once you sign on that line, you're in the Army or in the service.
So you just picked the safest route out of all of it.
The safest. That would be a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would feel really upset about that. You had this whole plan set up and everything.
Of course. Well, hey, and you're reminded that if you are in the military, they can change their mind.
Quite a bit.
At the drop of a hat. They said we were going to move to Vietnam, Da Nang, Vietnam, 24 hours notice. The whole squadron moved there.
At 24 hours.
24 hours notice. And I thought, I've got laundry and the cleaners. Boom, 24 hours. As it turns out, we got all ready and then they switched it. But, they can move real fast. They have to. They're military. Of how I kind of got in this, found my in Vietnam, quite honestly. And really what happened was that I had these good humanistic values of, I don't want to blow up the world. I had a kind of a plan. And what I think this did, by getting transferred into the gunship, I had to put my values in action. I couldn't just have these nice values and do nothing. I had to address them. And they were killing, on some missions, those gunships would kill 200 a night. 200 human souls a night. Those were the ships that did it, the gunships. The C-130s with weaponry on them.
Knowing Andrew's stance on his new duties in the AC-130, he eventually puts his morals and values in check after that fateful night flying above the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
The one particular mission, our job was generally to destroy trucks along the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Any supply, yeah.
Supply trucks. And then we had another mission at times where it was called Troops in Contact. And there was a large gathering of troops. Now, it could have been civilians. Intelligence said that it was troops. However, it looked like a village to me, and with body counts of up to 200 a night from one airplane. That is the one that I just refused to go on. And since it was depersonalized and from the air, no one much. And of course, it was described as, well, these are combat troops you're killing. It could have been a village that was friendly to the North Vietnamese or the South. If a village had to make an alliance, it was either which way it went, it would get destroyed.
Andrew, after refusing to go on the Ho Chi Minh Trail gunship mission, he got into legal troubles which even left his officers and higher-up officials confused on what to do with him.
I went through a flying evaluation board and they took my wings, and they didn't know what to do with me. There was no regulation as to what to do with me. So they actually had to get a new Air Force regulation because they didn't have any regulation for an officer basically being a conscientious objector. So they through my case, since I didn't fit into any other category, they got something to where they could get an officer who was a conscientious objector out. That's the legislation that they got because of my case. But I was just on the ground, and they didn't know what to do with me, so they basically made me a drug abuse officer.
Right after any training? Any training?
Oh, heck no. They didn't. Every base had to have a drug abuse officer, so they made me the drug abuse officer.
What was the start of that like? They just threw you in a building and said, deal with this guy.
Deal with a program. Make a program.
Huh.
I said, okay. So we got some people that were kind of enlisted guys that were kind of drug savvy, basically potheads. And we formed a program. And it was actually a pretty good program.
What was the work you did? Like AA groups, you sit in a circle and talk to them about?
Basically, it was I didn't know anything about it. It was I had a room on base, a kind of tape recorder would play music, Moody Blues and stuff like that. Just music, and you could come in. It was a quote rap center, so people could come in and talk. And also, kind of what it turned out to be was if people had in their squadrons had a problem with somebody using drugs, they would send it to our program. Some of those people were heroin users. They really had a problem.
Yeah, you go to any cab driver in Vietnam, get yourself a good bag.
And some of them were, again, people that had gotten caught with drugs, marijuana included. And they had probably screwed up some other way. Some were people that wanted out of the service because they didn't. They were kind of like us. They weren't. Didn't like the mission, and you could get them out of the service quickly on a charge of that they had smoked marijuana. It was an honorable discharge. So people that had been conscientious objectors for a long time, but their case was being thwarted. They'd be moved from base to base. All they had to do was admit to smoking weed, boom. Honorably discharged with a service designator number. But we got a lot of people discharged that way. They didn't want to be in the service anyway. And they were problem children for one reason or another. So got them discharged.
That's good, honestly.
That's pretty good, I thought.
Smart way to get out, too. I like
Yeah, right.
thinking out of the box again.
We had one guy, if you don't mind me telling the story.
No, go ahead.
So there was this one guy who was on a AC-130, he was probably a pilot. Yes, he was. And he had let it be known that he was going to get a load of heroin. I mean, a lot. Bring it back to the States.
Oh.
When he got, because they don't check your bags. And so what we did, the drug program and the base, or the personnel and the psychiatrist that I initially saw, we got his sent home with 24-hour notice. He didn't have time to get all that they can switch your assignment. Boom. He just went back home real quick.
No legal troubles? He had planned on bringing a bunch of heroin back to...
We found out, and he got moved back to the States real quick. He didn't know what happened.
Just that was the last you heard from him?
Of course.
That's... Hey, good for us, I guess.
I thought so. So, I mean, this drug program was really pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It was rated by a person that the Air Force sent around, a lieutenant colonel, as the best drug program in the Air Force.
Woo-hoo.
He wrote it up that way because we had a rap room, and we had people that kind of knew the drug scene, and they could talk to this lieutenant colonel, and it was open, and we were actually trying to help people.
That's awesome.
And so, as crazy as it was a good place, really trying to help not even drug users, but people that were having problems.
Yeah.
So that's where that counseling business came in.
Andrew had taken home everything he learned from the VA hospital and found a new form of motivation from it. He later joined New River Health to have patients to help out again, where he's been with for the past years.